All right, everyone, so let's talk about Nazis in conservative garb. This is something that is very, very real, and a lot of people who are in the conservative movement love to deny it, or they like to say something like, well, the left are the real racist, or the Democrats, those are the real racist, when the reality is that they are racist on both sides. And both sides like to masquerade their racism with something else, with either some sort of an appeal to scientific orthodoxy, which is what you see a lot of times on the left with their emphasis on the theory of evolution, or you have this type of thing on the right where people will do things like, well, I'm not a racist, I just hate immigration, I want to block immigration, I just want to save the white race, and I really, really like this guy named John Tanton, even though he supports Planned Parenthood. But hey, I'm not a racist at all. I have a copy of Mein Kampf in my bedroom, and I read it every night before I go to sleep. But hey, I'm a trad Catholic, and you may say, Ted, that sounds like a comical exaggeration. But the reality is that it is not a comical exaggeration. It is something that is very, very real. So let's get a little bit into this. Early this year, I had a conversation with a traditionalist Catholic woman, and she was very much so active in the church. And for those of you who do not know, I always have difficulty saying that sentence. For those of you who do not know, it's just like blah, blah, blah. It's almost like a word unto itself. For those of you who do not know, a traditionalist Catholic, or also known as a trad Catholic, is someone who wants to return back to authentic Catholicism. There is nothing wrong with this unto itself. The problem that I find is that this movement, for some strange reason, attracts Nazis. This is a reality that we have to learn to accept, but we also have to try to work to mitigate and to fix this problem. We really do. It's quite a damn shame that the trad Catholic movement has become such a magnet for Nazis and fascists and racist. Just recently, I got into a debate with someone who calls himself a Catholic, and he also identifies with fascism. And the debate is in my channel. It's one of my more recent videos. So anyway, I got into a conversation with this woman, and we started talking about Hitler. And I don't remember how Hitler came into this discussion, but for some reason Hitler comes into a lot of my conversations with people. We started talking about Adolf Hitler, and I said something along the lines of, well, you know, Hitler was a pretty evil person. And that really goes without saying. I'm shocked that we still are having this debate of whether or not Hitler was an evil person. We should all pretty much agree that Hitler was evil, specifically, you know, especially for the fact that, you know, it's been over 75 years since the Second World War, and by now we should really learn the evil consequences of fascism and National Socialism, and Darwinism also, since Darwinism really served as the ideological underpinning and foundation for all scientific racism in the 20th century. And also in the 19th century as well, although there were other theories that came along Darwinism within that time period. Anyway, so she started telling me about how Adolf Hitler was actually a really, really good Catholic guy. He was actually a great Catholic guy. You know, he was an altar boy in the Catholic Church. And I'm thinking, like, wait, haven't we gone beyond this whole, like, atheist argument of trying to portray Hitler as a Christian? Because we know for a fact that, yes, while Adolf Hitler was born into the Catholic tradition, Adolf Hitler rejected his Christian faith, and there are numerous statements from Hitler really evidencing and demonstrating his anti-Christian beliefs. But no, that was not enough for this woman. She said, oh, no, I heard he was actually a very honorable and very loyal Catholic man. Okay, so I said to this woman, do you believe in evolution? And she said, no. I said, well, Hitler believed in evolution. I've never heard of that. Show me. Well, let's go to Mein Kampf. Let's have a Mein Kampf study. Instead of a Bible study, let's have a Mein Kampf study. So instead of like, all right, everyone, open up your Bibles. Let's go to, all right, everyone, let's open up the Mein Kampf. We're going to go to chapter 23, verses 19. The prophet Hitler actually said that some people are inferior, and, you know, retarded people need to die, and the superior races will be glorified in the end when the great conflict between the forces of evil and the forces of good collide, and the forces of good will be victorious, and the great Messiah, the great German Messiah, will come out of the cave of the mountains of the Black Forest, and he will bring salvation to all of the superior peoples, and the dark peoples, or those who are of lower genetic disposition, will be slaughtered. Let's go to that verse, okay, children? This is so exciting. Like, okay, let's have a Mein Kampf study. So I pull out an online version of Mein Kampf, and she says, I have a hardcover copy of Mein Kampf in German. Now, this woman spoke German. She actually lived in Germany for a number of years, so she could speak and read the language. And I had, of course, my English translation. So it's kind of like, well, you know how people, when they argue about verses in the Bible, they're like, oh, what does the Hebrew say? What does the Greek say? In this case, it was, what does the German say? It's pretty disturbing. So I find the part where Hitler talks about, the lower races and the higher races, and he actually talks about evolution. It's quite obvious that Hitler believed in evolution. And she said, well, which chapter is this? I'm like, out of chapter, I don't know, 23. I don't remember exactly which chapter it was. And she's like, well, I need to look more into this. I never heard of this. And it's possible that Hitler just sort of fell away a little bit from his faith. But I think for the most part, Hitler remained quite loyal to his Catholic religion. So I said, okay, so if Hitler is such a good Catholic as you believe, why did Hitler slaughter Catholics? Which Catholics were killed by Adolf Hitler? Okay, Saint Maximilian Kolb. Let's talk about Saint Maximilian Kolb, Catholic saint murdered by the Nazis. And she just sort of waved that off like it didn't really mean anything. Well, he was a good Catholic. Okay, well, what about the fact that Adolf Hitler's regime slaughtered millions of Catholics? Where I never heard about millions of Catholics being killed by Adolf Hitler. Let's talk about Poland. Let's talk about Poland. How many Poles were murdered under Nazi occupation? Millions. They say around 6 million Poles were murdered under Nazi occupation. Trad Catholics love talking about the Soviet Union and how evil the Soviet Union was. Yes, the Soviet Union was evil. Please do not give me comments about how evil the Soviet Union was, because I already know that. I am way ahead of you on this. So, the Soviet Union killed 900,000 Poles. That's a lot of people. That is a lot of people. Hell of a lot of people. The Third Reich killed 6 million people in Poland. So we should not somehow belittle the atrocities committed by the Nazis and then sit here and talk about the Soviet Union all day. We should talk about both. We should talk about the evils of both regimes so that we can actually warn people about the dangers of both sides of this political coin, the left and the right. The communists being on the left, the Nazis being on the right. Both sides will kill you. You have the Christopher, I was going to say Christopher Hitchens, although he was kind of a trophy for the right later on. You have Richard Spencer and Jared Taylor, and you got all these crazy right-wingers. And then on the other side, you got your Hassan Pikers and your Vouches, and you got these other people. Well, both of these people are evil. They both, both of their ideologies lead to destruction. So this woman said, well, I think Poland did something to anger Germany. Yes, and that, of course, warranted the slaughter of millions of people. So Soviet Union, bad, but Nazi Germany, good. This is how a lot of these people think. And in this same conversation, I am not joking. I mean, talk about cognitive dissonance, contradictory behavior, whatever you want to call it. In the same conversation, this woman tells me, the left, they want to portray all of us Trump supporters as racist. We're not racist at all. And I'm like, have you ever looked into the mirror? You have a hardcover copy of Mein Kampf in German. You are defending Mein Kampf. You are defending Adolf Hitler. And in the same conversation, you are going to tell me the evil left wing wants to portray us as racist, but they're all wrong. Just because we support Trump doesn't make us racist. Okay, if you say you love Trump and then you're reading Mein Kampf, I'm going to say you are a racist. So the reality is that they are Trump supporters who are racist. The reality is that not all Trump supporters are racist. But the reality is also that they are Trump supporters who are indeed racist. They are conservatives who are indeed racist. They are Republicans who are indeed racist. They are nationalists who are definitely racist. You have Catholics who are racist, especially trad Catholics. There are a lot of these people around. And that's what makes this so scary, is that all these people, they have arguments that masquerade their fascistic inclinations. They all have these arguments like, well, I'm a Catholic and I believe that, God created everyone. We are all children of God. But at the same time, I hate immigrants and I hate this immigration stuff is crap and we need to put a big old wall and block all these people from coming in so we can save the white race. There is so much of this nonsense around. And it's just crazy. It really is. But there are a lot of these people around. I got into a debate with a guy who calls himself a Catholic and he identifies with fascism. And you can watch that debate in my channel. It's one of my more recent videos. I got into a debate with Martin Sellner, the leader of the Austrian identitarian movement, which is really the new Nazism in Europe, or one of the new forms of Nazism in Europe. You, of course, have this whole phenomena going on in the EU where people like Angela Merkel are saying, we as Germans must grab our destiny and keep going, to hell with these Americans. We must grab our destiny and make Germany, Deutschland great again. We have, of course, that phenomena, but identitarianism is one of the trappings of the new Nazism. But I got into a debate with Martin Sellner and he told me that he was a traditionalist Catholic. So during the Second World War, this phenomena was very real. You had the Croatian Catholic fascist, the Ustasha. You had Catholics from Flanders and from France who identified themselves as traditional Catholics, but they were Nazis. So this phenomena is very real, and we should acknowledge it. And we can't sit here and use these little weaselly arguments of, well, it's the left that are the racists, not us. No, we have this. Well, not we. I'm not a part of the conservative movement anymore. Well, I never really was a part of the conservative movement because I always was very critical of the conservative movement. I identify myself as a Christian, and I have a moral compass that is determined by Christianity and really a volition that hates injustice. But I'm definitely not a right-winger, nor am I a left-winger. So there you have it, everyone. You guys just heard some theology. God bless.